because I'm not interested in, you know, and I love turning up and having fun, but like being sober, it's like, okay, that isn't, I never was the one to go out to clubs. I think I've been to a club like, I mean, I can count on my fingers like how many times I've been to a club at 27. You know, I know people, some of my peers go every weekend.
Yeah.
It's just not something that interests me, man. I'd rather, you know, watching my favorite movie.
Yeah.
And like that encyclopedic knowledge I inherited from my dad. In high school, you know, I got to a certain point where I'm like, all right, I'm like, I don't really like reading anymore. Like, I don't like assigned reading. I don't want to read Charles Dickens. I don't want to read fucking F. Scott Fitzgerald. Like, I just want to envelop myself in a different way. So it became, you know, becoming obsessed with a director and then like going through their entire filmography and watching every single film in their filmography.
Right.
You know, Richard Linklater, Fincher.
Yeah,
Tarantino.
you mentioned him earlier.
Yeah, they're like the great American, right, like independent filmmakers.
Right.
Like they kind of changed and paved the way for a lot of people.
Yep.
Catherine Bigelow, you know, Ava DuVernay was a huge inspiration. I actually wrote an article about her for the school newspaper that I remember. It was about in 2014 the Oscars So White campaign, because Ava DuVernay, she had the most critically acclaimed film that year, and Selma was nominated for Best Picture, but it wasn't nominated for Best Director, and she would have made history as the first black woman to ever be nominated for the Best Director Oscar. And I think the other directors that time, it was just like an insult. It was like The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch. That, I can't remember his name. He was nominated for Best Director, and it's like,
yeah,
this Oscar bait, like this schlock, like, right? And Ava DuVernay, like, so you're gonna nominate her for Best Picture and Best Adapted Screenplay, but not her directing. You're gonna nominate David Oyelowo for Best Actor. It was nominated for like 7 awards, and she wasn't nominated for Best Director. And I wrote a whole article about that. So she's a huge, you know, inspiration. And like Barry Jenkins, you know, Alfonso Cuarón, Alejandro González Iñárritu.
What? So
I'm like all over the place, bro.
No. Not to get too off topic. I kind of want to go back to your grandma a little bit.
Okay.
What do you think with your art in general? You could say your art in general, but I'm really interested in this album that you're about to release. Or has it?
It's out.
It's out now.
So it actually came out on the 8th anniversary of her passing.
Okay.
On her day of remembrance.
Okay. So what themes from her did you put into this? Or how has she shaped you leading up to the moment of the release?
I feel like I died when, like, a part of me died when she passed, when she left this earth. So a big part of this album is like rebirth, right? Advanced decay. There's 5 stages of decomposition. Fresh, bloat, fresh or autolysis, bloat, active decay, advanced decay, and then finally skeletalization. Advanced decay is the penultimate stage of decomposition where the flesh falls off the bone and you return to the earth, become one with the dirt. And spiritually, you can kind of like, you know, get what you will from that. But that's what the last like 5, I mean, it's been 8 years without her. So that's what the last 8 years has felt like, a constant cycle of death, rebirth, decay, being born again, like finding myself, finding how I want to communicate with the world and share these ideas, and that idea of, you know, when you do leave this earth and you no longer inhabit this vessel, like it's not the end, it's the beginning, you know, and like kind of shifting my mindset around death and the idea of like having to kill yourself, having to kill your ego, right? Like it also is married with that. Like there's a lot of struggles with identity, right? And I talked about that, like, right, like going to these different schools and being raised in these different environments. And when she passed, right, I started using a lot of substances. I started experimenting with a lot of different things, and like psychedelics included, and like these ideas of like death and rebirth, and this like collective consciousness that we all share. And I feel like we share it more than ever now, like with the internet, and like how fast we're able to communicate and how effectively we're able to communicate. And it's only going to continue to like grow, and that interests me. And I feel like I've been here before. I know I've been here before. And I feel like I've been here with the same people. And we're like it's all, you familiar with the egg theory?
A little bit. A little bit.
Essentially, it states that like we are all the same spirit experiencing life itself, and like you or me, I am you. So every stranger that you meet is you in another life, right? And you intersect with these different facets of yourself, and that's really how I feel about all of this. I question reality a lot, and that is in this too.
We can find the themes in the album that you're talking about.
Yeah, and there's an interlude on there, Active Decay, where it basically like it's the thesis statement of the album.
Okay.
It's like who are you? Who really are you? When you take off the mask, because Carl Jung talks about the three selves, right? And there's like the self that you perform for other people. There's the self that you perform for yourself, and then there's really you. And I think like that's what this album is about, in addition to like rebirth and like being comfortable taking off the mask. Like that's what it really is about. And I'm excited for you to see the performance tonight, because I think you'll see a little bit more of the themes encapsulated in the performance too.
I'm excited, man. I just want to preface this for the people watching too, that like this is my first time meeting you in person. I didn't do any research on you. I didn't do any like background check or anything. I wanted to come in, have this be an organic thing. I listened to 2 songs that you sent me. That's it though. I didn't want to listen to anything else. I wanted to hear it from you first before I delve into this, because I wanted to be a viewer of this watching for the first time too. So I think getting this kind of like firsthand is super, super interesting to me. Because now I want to go and listen to the album. I want to go and dive deeper into your music and your other mediums that you have out there. Is there anything that you want to say to, I kind of hate this question, but I do think it is informative to people. When people go to listen to your music, what do you want them to get out of it? If that's something that you can kind of touch on.
I don't think about that. I'm very selfish with the way I create. I don't think about the audience at all.
Okay.
I actually want to alienate the audience in a certain regard. But I think it's dope that we kind of like designed, our first meeting kind of this way. Because, whoever watches this, like if anybody watches this, you're in the same shoes as them. And I hate talking about like a hypothetical audience member. Like
I know.
Because we're really just having a conversation and we're filming it, and like whoever's gonna watch is gonna watch it, and they're gonna take what they take from it, if they take anything from it, but I'm just here and I'm existing, and like I'm creating stuff for me, and I don't really think about the audience at all, and like whatever someone takes from it, they take from it. I know what I take from it, and that's really who I create it for, is for me. And I create what I like. I curate based on my tastes and my influences, and I don't really think about like, what is someone going to take from this? I used to.
I agree.
I used to.
Yes.
And I feel like I made diluted, watered down things that weren't true to me, And I just like, for me, art is therapy. So for me, this whole process has been therapeutic. I feel like I'm coming back to myself. I think there's a line on the intro Flesh and Bone, where I say, you know, I am never sober, man. The torture sure is quite a lot. And I think, you know, it's really, you know, to think about it now, like today's my 60 days sober. In a decade, a decade of daily use, just getting high, smoking, drinking, nearly a decade of that. And now it's like, I do feel like I'm returning to myself. I feel like the flesh is falling off the bone and I'm returning to the earth. And I'm excited to be consumed by worms. I'm excited for it. Like, I'm excited.
I love that.
For them to feast on my carcass. Yeah, I am.
I love it. I love it.
Because it's like,
you're done with
at a better time.
You're done with it.
I'm done with
yeah.
it. And I'm like, I can actually release and move forward. And that
yep.
to me, you know, now it's like a time capsule. And, you know, this is the first album in a trilogy of albums. So this is the first album in a trilogy of albums. So this is just the beginning of the story. And, you know, there's multiple layers of it, and like people could listen to it and get what they will from it, but it's a love story too. So it's a love story. It's a love letter to the lost ones. And the lost ones can have transcended this earthly realm, and they could still share it with you. You know, sometimes we lose people and they're still alive.
They are.
You know?
They are. They really are. I truly believe in energy, in the spirits.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about literally they're still alive. Like sometimes you lose people and they're dead to you, or you're dead to them, and they're still here. You could, if you wanted to, you could call them. It's not just the spiritual realm. I'm talking about like sometimes we lose loved ones that mean everything to us, and they're still here, and there's nothing that we can do about it, or maybe there is. And that's what this album is about. It's about perspective. That's what this trilogy album is about. You know, I did a show earlier this year. It was called Rose Colored Lenses, and this trilogy is called the Rose Colored Lenses trilogy.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the first time I feel like I've ever shared that. So
I like that.
Yeah, people, you know, some people know I did a show called Rose Colored Lenses and How They May Fall, but I don't think they knew those songs were songs selected from each album in the trilogy, and I've been teasing this album,
for
albums
years,
for a year now. So,
okay.
I can share this with you. By the time this comes out, it'll be announced. I'm throwing a festival.
Nice.
And it's going to be February 15th.
Okay.
And it's a year to the day of when we threw the first Rose Colored Lenses. So it's called Prism Fest. I got a dozen acts all signed on.
I love it, dude.
DJs, vendors.
Where, when?
It's going to be
I know
February 15th, 2025, right? We're
okay.
still in 2024.
Yep.
So, man, can you believe we're almost halfway done with the decade?
I know, dude.
Isn't that something?
It's crazy.
Isn't that something?
It's crazy.
Halfway done with the decade.
Before we move on, I actually want to say one more thing. Going back to like when we were talking about the audience, right?
Right.
A pet peeve of mine was when you see people like posting, hey, would you guys want to see like this type of thing or whatever, this type of thing? I think a lot of artists are selfish. I'm a bit selfish. I make things and then I want people to come and look at it because I made it and it made me feel good.
Right.
I think if you're putting out your stuff like saying, hey, I you know, what do you guys want next? That type of thing. I think you're doing it for other people.
Right.
And not necessarily that's a bad thing, but I don't think going all the way back to the beginning of this, I don't think it's being true to like who you are at a certain point. So that's kind of what I like about this album is that you said it was literally just therapy to you.
It was therapy, man.
It's therapy. And I like that.
I feel like that's like, oh.
It's a free
so
therapy.
Cliche.
No, it's not.
It's therapeutic, blah, blah, blah. Make some fucking bangers, man. Like, make some fucking shit that's going to make me nod my head. And there's stuff on there for that, too. But it's like, I have something to say. And it's like, you either going to listen or you're not.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you don't listen.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
But I got something to say.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm going to share it. And I'm gonna get it off my chest. Because to me, that's what this is about. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's what being an artist is about. And it's like, you're either gonna have an audience or you're not. People are gonna come to it or not. But it's like, I feel like organically, people will come to it if they resonate with something that you're saying.
Yep.
And they're only going to resonate with something that you're saying.
Is if you're being true.
And
Yeah.
if you're being true. So,
Yep.
man, you know, I'm just excited for the next, you know, so I don't know. I don't want to get too much into the trilogy album because there's still more to come, but it's all about perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
So rose-colored lenses, right? It's a love story.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same story told from 3 different perspectives. Advanced Decay
Mm-hmm.
being the nightmare. Second album being the dream, and then we'll end in reality on the third album.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's sick, dude.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Now, do you have a time for these to come out, or are you just kind of doing it when it feels right?
I don't like to like impose deadlines on myself because then when I don't meet them, it's like I feel this pressure to like apologize to the audience and like, oh, I said I was gonna do this and like someone hold me accountable. But it's like, man, I'm just making art and you'll get it when it's ready.
Nobody's
When it's
holding a
fully
gun to
cooked.
your head.
Yeah.
Nobody's holding a gun to your head.
Label, they're not like, you got to turn this in by this date. Like,
Yeah.
I'm blessed in that regard where I'm running independent. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have ideas of when I want it to come out. And it's like, if it's ready and it's there, you know, then we'll come out. And that's why, like, I'm excited to start this working relationship with you and, like, you know, delve deeper into that and get to know you more because, you know, I hope we can make some dope shit together. That's
There's
all I
no
want.
question.
Yeah.
We will. We will.
Yeah.
But, all right, man. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up? How are we looking? Are we?
What's the time?
We're doing good on the...
Yeah, we're still good.
Okay, cool. What time is it?
It's 11:13.
Cool. Sweet.
Do you have anything that you want to ask or anything?
I kind of want to, like... What?
Oh, some,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We should probably do
Oh,
an intro.
The questions, right?
We should probably do an intro,
because
too.
This is an introduction not only
Yeah.
to
To
each other,
us,
right?
but
to the audience, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the proverbial.
Yep. Yeah. So where did you get your name from? Like, what do you prefer to go by? And if you want to say, you don't
Phenom.
have to say Phenom.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, is there what you said off camera that you were going by this at 13?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I was in middle school.
Okay.
I had just moved back to Broward, and I was writing poetry and like I was writing these raps, and I just recorded with my cousin, who's a producer. He had a bedroom studio, and I recorded in his studio for the first time. The first song I ever recorded and on a real microphone in Pro Tools was a freestyle to Jay-Z's "Feeling It" off Reasonable Doubt. His first album.
Okay.
So, and I would just upload it to like SoundCloud during the birth of that, you know, era. And I would just upload like freestyles on instrumentals like Drake, Cole, Kendrick. I would upload these freestyles on instrumentals, Drake, Cole, Kendrick, Tyler, A Tribe Called Quest, you know what I'm saying? Wu-Tang, you know, Jazz Liberators, Nujabes, J Dilla. Like I was really like, you know, all over the place. I was a purist at heart, but then, you know, the big three, right? Like, fuck the big three, it's just big me. That's what Kendrick said. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I grew up on the big three, and they were extremely formative, all of them in their own ways, you know? I think they all have, you know, strengths and weaknesses, and, you know, I love Kendrick, though. I love Kendrick. I love his artistry. And you can see elements of the theatricality, right? Even in the way he delivers his vocals, the layering, you know, playing with the multiple octaves as early as Section 80 and even Overly Dedicated, that first mixtape. So it's like, I take a lot of cues from Kendrick, a lot of cues from Tyler, his artistry, his visuals, you know what I'm saying? But I was in middle school, man, and I was like reading The Lightning Thief, and I was like sitting at the cafeteria table one day. Yeah, great series.
Great book.
Yeah, not good show or a movie,
No,
but yeah, great book. Rick
We'll
Riordan.
say the book, yeah.
Yeah, Rick Riordan. You did your thing on that one, man. That was a staple in the YA genre, man. But I was 13. I'm sitting at the cafeteria table. I remember it clear as day. And like I'm trying to come up with rapper names because I was like uploading stuff, and like people in my class and like the middle school, like they knew what I was doing, and like I got a lot of positive feedback from it. And I did a talent show, and I like performed an original song with a friend of mine. His name is Mason Wolf. Cool name.
It's a sick name.
Yeah, it's a sick name.
Is it real?
Yeah.
Bullshit.
No, real.
Bullshit.
Mason
Man.
Wolf.
That's sick.
Fucking raw, yeah.
That's
No,
sick.
he was ill on the guitar, and I had this vision, like, because I had written this song on like this jazzy boom bap instrumental, and it was called DEL, and it was an acronym, the Entity of Love and Liberation. And
Okay.
I'm like 13 coming up with these concepts, and like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like it was always in me, and I remember going to Mason. I'm like, yo, like, I think it would be cool if I took this rap and like you played guitar, acoustic guitar, and like I rapped over you playing. And so we came up with this number together, and we like rehearsed it like for 3 days in the cafeteria, like in the hallway when we could, and like we would rehearse for the talent show. And I performed it and got like immense positive feedback. Like it was like, and I had just moved there, and like people kind of knew me from. They're like, is that Nick from elementary? Like, and you know, like that was like kind of me like reintroducing myself in a sense. And I'm like, man, what's my name, bro? Like, what's my artist name? So I was really into Greek and Roman mythology, and I was like, oh, let me do like Apollo, because he's the god of the sun and the god of music. Had the ego back then too.
Yep. That's okay though.
You gotta have a certain level of like.
You have to have ego as an artist.
I mean, come on, man, I'm dope.
You can't make art without an ego.
I knew I was dope.
Cool person.
I've been dope. You know what I'm saying? My parents are dope. My grandparents are dope. Dope is in my blood.
How could you not
Dope's
be?
in my lineage. You know what I'm saying? I inherited dopeness. No, but in all seriousness, I was sitting there and I'm like, oh, Apollo. So I looked up like, were there any rappers named Apollo? And it was taken. It was a very popular name, you know, clearly. I'm not the first person to think of that. So I was like, oh, what if I did like, you know, you ever heard like, oh, the Kid Phenom from blah, 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 from, you know. And I was like, oh, let me do like the Kid Phenom. And I was like, well, I'm not going to be a kid forever. Yeah. So I had that foresight even like at 13. And I was like, all right, let me just drop kid and just do Phenom. And I wrote P-H-E-N-O-M on all caps. And I was looking at it, I'm like, it just looks too plain. So I flipped the P, and the mirror image was the 9. So I rewrote it, 9HENOM. And I'm like, well, my birthday's in September in the 9th month, so I'll just justify it that way.
There you go. There you go.
And years later, getting into numerology and astrology and all these different things, my life path number is the number 9. So I'm a life path 9. I didn't even know that. I was just gravitated towards that. And I was just like, oh, September is the 9th month. I'll just justify it that way. And it's been that ever since. I wrote it that day in lunch at the cafeteria table, and it's been that ever since.
I love it, dude.
Yeah.
Great time meeting you, though.
Yeah, man.
Great time meeting you.
Likewise.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the conversation.
Of course, dude. I think this is going to be really great.